Hey there, and welcome to GamePoints episode 125. This is our weekly little get-together where we talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today, again, finally is...
Oh yeah, I'm David. I do exist on this thing.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since we've had you. Admittedly, it's not all your fault. I think you were sick one day, and then I was at GDC the other, so last week we didn't even have a show. But we're back. We have some mediocre news to get through, and
Yeah, get excited, everybody.
we actually have some news. We got our sub button on Twitch. So if you
Man,
happen to
you
be
really
watching
think
us
that's
live...
news?
Hey, I find it very entertaining. I'm jazzed to get that thing.
All right.
So if you're watching us live, feel free to sub and follow and cheer and all that. You don't have to by any means, but it would be cool to see it tested out. I literally just got it an hour ago before, so this is the first broadcast we've done with it. David, how have things been for you the past couple weeks?
Besides being really sick for that 1 week,
Yeah,
not
besides
bad.
being sick and busy.
Just playing video games mostly.
You
That's
do
a nice
the
thing.
new Monster Hunter yet?
Double Joe and all
Yeah.
that other stuff.
Yeah.
Not as much as I need to.
All right. I still haven't logged back on since it's been almost a month, I think.
Wow, you're missing a whole lot of vouchers.
I'm I'm sure they would feel right at home with the other couple like dozen that I have just sitting there doing nothing.
You should use them for money.
All right. Anyways, like I said, this is Game Points, by the way, and it is an audience interactive podcast. So if you guys have any questions or topics or concerns you want to talk about, whatever, feel free to do so in the chat down to the side there. Let's go ahead and get right into things, David, with the first topic of the week, and that is I was just flat out wrong.
Yeah, you were. Oh man, this is such a great story. This is fantastic. Tell the people how you're wrong.
Well, I'll get into that in a second. This is a press release from Ubisoft, and it is good news. The headline: Ubisoft reaches agreement with Vivendi for its full exit from Ubisoft's share capital. I know this sounds really boring and businessy, and I promise I'm not going to get too hardcore into the numbers if I can avoid it.
Yeah, I'll fall asleep.
Essentially, an announcement from press release, Ubisoft says the long-lasting bid against a perceived hostile takeover by Vivendi has ended, with Vivendi pulling out completely from Ubisoft, and it didn't even get it pregnant.
Nice.
Vivendi is to sell its entire stake in Ubisoft, representing 27.3% of Ubisoft's share capital. The reason why that number is important is because I believe that is very close to the French law that states once you hit a certain number, you have to make a bid for the entire company. And this is where I was just horribly, horribly wrong. For the past year, I have been convinced that not only is Vivendi going to buy out Ubisoft, but that is just flat out inevitable, and nothing is going to change it at this point. And then in the blink of an eye...
And then you were super wrong.
In a blink of an eye, I am just horribly, horribly wrong. I am glad to see the Gilmore brothers, the Gilmore family, kind of recover the company back. No one really wants to see a massive media conglomerate buy up a game publisher, and Ubisoft, in my opinion, has kind of been riding the ship lately, so it's good to see this come out, in my opinion. What do you think, David?
It's definitely good because we've talked about how much we don't like Vivendi and like kind of some of the stuff they've done in the past. But one thing that was funny is I think Tencent is buying a big chunk of that capital.
Well, let's get back into that.
And that's a whole nother thing.
So here are some of the details that I wanted to get into about this, and you brought it up. So if a transaction is going to be structured in the following way, according to this press release. The Ontario Teachers Pension Plan and Tencent are going to enter Ubisoft share capital as long-term investors. I know that sounds weird, but a lot of pension plans are essentially just buying stock in companies. And since Ubisoft has a lot of
value
developers in French Canada, it makes sense that the Ontario it's all kind of homegrown there. But the bigger, more eye-raising part of that is Tencent, right there. That's interesting. We'll get to how much they own of Ubisoft in a second. They're also going to essentially buy back all the shares owned by Ubisoft, and this sounds like it's going to be done by the Gilmore brothers. They're going to buy up all that money that Vivendi has sunk into their company already.
Yeah.
So those two guys are going to be in majority control of the company, it sounds like. I can't say majority for certain because I don't know if they own more than 50% combined or not. I have to dig deep into it. But to talk about your Tencent concern, Tencent has committed to purchase 5% of Ubisoft.
Mm-hmm.
This is in addition to...
Teachers get 3.4%. Ubisoft gets back 8%. The Gilmore brothers got 2.7%. So, you know, it's kind of...
So it's nowhere near a majority on them. Okay.
Yeah.
Tencent, I know we've talked about a lot here. Tencent are the guys that just flat out own League of Legends and Riot Games. I believe they own just shy of half of Epic. I want to say they own a quarter of Activision Blizzard.
They own Bluehole, who make PUBG.
Do they own Bluehole? Are you sure about that?
I mean, either that or they just partnered with them for the Chinese release.
I think they might have partnered for the Chinese release. I don't think they own them. Give me 1 second.
I thought that
up for you.
They were planning on buying them, but I mean, maybe they didn't.
Yeah, I don't think they actually own Bluehole. I have to look this up now.
I remember we were talking about them looking to purchase, but who knows? Maybe they didn't.
Doing a quick Yahoo shot here. Ah, here we go.
Yahoo. This man is 87 years old.
I use Yahoo. Tencent have purchased 5% of PUBG developer Bluehole and looking for more. So that was as of September 28th of last year, according to PC Gamer. So yeah, they do own some of the PUBG Corp there. Tencent owns a lot of shit, and most people in America have never heard of them.
Unless you watch this show.
Yeah, unless you watch this show, in which case I talk about them because I am terrified of Tencent. I have like this weird conspiracy theory behind them.
You have a weird conspiracy theory about everything, though.
This is technically true.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Ubisoft has successfully fended off Vivendi's hostile takeover. To assume that it was a hostile takeover. To be fair to Vivendi's credit, they always said they're not looking to take them over. Writing was kind of on the wall that they were. Additionally, they got a guarantee in this arrangement that Vivendi will not hold any shares in Ubisoft for at least 5 years.
Wow.
That kind of intrigues me. Whatever deal they worked out behind the scenes, Vivendi has said, we will not purchase a single share in Ubisoft for 5 years. And they were so hungry to have them. And then all of a sudden, they're like, okay, this is it. So I wonder what was done behind the scenes that we're not being told about. If anything, Vivendi could have just had a change of heart and went, we don't want to get back into the games thing again after the Activision Blizzard. Because I believe Vivendi owned Activision at one time.
I thought they also owned... Maybe. Oh, no, it was Activision. You're right. You're right. That's back when they were doing some shenanigans. Anyway, yeah. That's fun. Ubisoft
they had a
5.7%
stake in Activision Blizzard before they bounced out. But yeah, Ubisoft sticking around. Awesome. I think they're doing really well lately. I think they've realized we can't just annualize things. They're trying really hard not to be another EA, and I think it shows in Assassin's Creed Origin and in Far Cry 5, which I am currently finishing up, and the review should be out soon. But them taking their times with their franchises have actually been a good thing. And I am so ecstatic to see Vivendi not gobble these guys up.
Cool.
Any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic, David?
No, I'm good. I think I want to talk about this next thing because it's something that when I first heard whispers of it, sounded like incredibly good news, and then turned around and just punches you right in the stomach.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
There have now been, via Charlie Intel and confirmed by Eurogamer and Kotaku, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered rumors. But we're pretty positive this is a thing that's happening. And the big thing is, it's a remaster of the campaign only. As in, it doesn't have multiplayer. As in, it has no reason to buy it. End story.
In the article from CharlieIntel.com, headline, sources say Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered has no multiplayer, not being developed by Raven. By the way, Raven Software are the guys who did the original Remastered. This is, of course, via Charlie Intel, but has also been confirmed by Eurogamer and Kotaku. The following article says, quote, rumors started swirling this past week about a possible Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered that could be incoming in the near future. The first rumor started after a listing appeared on Amazon Italy last week, with support channels for some large retailers showing up with possible additional pre-order dates. However, Charlie Intel has learned some new information about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered from a source that sent us materials from a Raven Software employee. Pause quote. Interesting, since they're saying Raven is not involved in production on it from one company, or from one publisher.
But they got their information from a Raven employee?
Yeah. So I wonder if there's any bad blood or spite going on with the article. The information states that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered does not have a multiplayer mode. It is a campaign-only remaster according to the material Charlie Intel was sent. We believe this information to be accurate. David, you've already kind of tipped your head on what you feel about this.
This is a pointless product.
Absolutely. Modern Warfare 2 was like the good multiplayer, right?
Yes. This is like the one that I know off the top of my head at least like 11 people that would just buy it.
Yeah, same here. Just for the multiplayer, though.
Yeah, just for that. Done.
So, go ahead.
In the wave of remasters and rehashes and re-releases that we're just in right now, this is our life, this is what we get. This one is just, I don't understand who would possibly make that decision. It almost seems useless.
So I'm going to make you a little bit angrier.
Like, who wants this? Who is this being targeted for? Because the guys that played Modern Warfare back in the day, guess what? They probably finished the campaign, or they never had an interest in it in the first place. So why would they want to see that remaster?
Modern Warfare 1, the Modern Warfare remaster, I guess Modern Warfare 1. I only played for the campaign. I didn't go back into multiplayer on that. So yeah, but I'm fine with this, but I realize I'm in the minority.
You are not a multiplayer shooter player in general. You don't play any of the Call of Duties in multiplayer. You don't play Battlefront or Battlefield. I mean, those are multiplayer, but you just don't play them.
No.
And yeah, this is a product with no purpose.
So here's what might anger you a little bit more. Remember how I mentioned that retail listed on Amazon, Italy? Mm-hmm. It was retailing for roughly $25 American.
For what?
For just this campaign.
No. For what? Why? Why would I spend that much money on something that I beat years ago?
Who knows? But I will also say this. Oh, what the hell just happened? I had a weird thing happen on my computer. Sorry.
I could just go plug in a PS3 and just go play the old game.
The original price of Modern Warfare Remastered was $40. So in their minds,
I actually thought was too much anyway.
Yeah, I agree. But that means in EA's minds, or Activision's minds rather,
the campaign's worth more.
The Call of Duty multiplayer was only worth $15. And the campaign is worth $25. Now you can make the argument of, oh, it takes all these extra resources, blah 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 blah. Don't care. If this is going to be sold for $25, it is. No, just for the campaign? No, it should be $25 for the entire thing. For a game that's what, 10 years old at this point?
Yeah, I could just buy it on Steam.
Yeah.
For like $20.
That's another thing too. The basic game itself is still $20 on Steam.
And play with multiplayer.
It's infuriating. This is technically just a rumor. Keep that in mind. But this is also one of those rumors that have just been confirmed by multiple sources. Not only Charlie Intel, which is a fan site, but they tend to be right on some things, but also Eurogamer and Kotaku, both known for very reliable leaks. So my gut tells me this is a done deal. This is happening. This is what's going to be. We don't know about the price point. Just because Italy priced it at a conversion rate of $25 does not mean it's going to release in America at $25. My gut tells me 20, but even then, that's that.
Who's gonna buy this? Even for $20?
I don't know. No idea if this is going to be attached as a pre-order incentive on top of Black Ops 4 later this year.
Oh yeah, they'll just throw it in. That's Black Ops, get a copy of this multiplayer.
Remember,
get a copy of this campaign.
Remember, Modern Warfare Remastered was not originally supposed to be sold separately either. It was supposed to be a pre-order only bonus, and they even said that, if I recall correctly. And then later they went, "Oh, here it is."
We talked about how dumb it was and how they could have sold it and made some money off of it, and then they finally decided that, oh yeah, we could be making extra money.
Yeah, I guarantee you that was the plan from the beginning, by the way. They fucking lied. Let's be honest here. Activision lied about never selling Modern Warfare separately. They did it to get people to pre-order, what was it? Infinite Warfare?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Which still didn't do that well.
no, Infinite Warfare did very well. It just plateaued. I don't think it sold as much as Black Ops 3 did. So let's
Well,
be
I'm
clear
gonna
here.
go from okay, it did well, but from Activision's eyes, it didn't do that well.
Well, you never
Considering
want to
the
see a
fact that
game
they,
sell less than its predecessor.
yeah, considering the fact that they just abandoned the whole feature thing and went right back to World War II.
Right.
Womp womp.
Let's go ahead and go on to the next story. Another this entire theme of this show is stuff that I like, but always seems to fall short of what I want. And let's talk about the fact that System Shock Remaster is back up and running. Hot damn, thank God. If you recall, a couple weeks ago, production on this game was halted because Stephen Kick from Night Dive came out and said, hey, we fucked up and we have went way beyond our scope. Cool. They took a look at it, they realigned, they reassessed their priorities, and now in this interview via PC Gamer, which you have right up here, headline, Night Dive talks System Shock's remake change of direction, expects release in probably Q1 of 2020. That's 2 goddamn years from now, David.
Yeah.
Death Stranding could potentially be out before this game.
Probably.
While speaking with PC Gamer at GDC,
Feature
Night
great.
Dive CEO Stephen Kick said, quote, our intention is to ship exactly the game that was promised with as much of the features that were promised as we can, in a time frame that will get it out as fast as we can. Our expectation is probably Q1 of 2020. David, 2020 is the fucking year TV shows in the 80s used to talk about the distant future. That's how fucking far off this game is.
Yeah. It's ages. I mean, there's a decent chance that we'll have like CD Projekt Red's next game by then. And then who's gonna give a shit about System Shock Remaster?
Me. I will.
I mean, I guess.
So
I'll be playing Cyberpunk.
Here's the thing. If you go, I do recommend reading the full article. Links will be posted in the YouTube page down below. He does, Stephen Kick, the CEO of Night Dive, does go on to say, hey, we do have funding secured all the way through there because more people got interested in it. Awesome. And I'm glad that they would rather go and make it right and make sure that everything is promised and the features that were promised are actually in the game, rather than just rushing a piece of shit out the door, a la Mighty Number 9 or Space DF9, all those other weird Kickstarters that never really seem to take hold.
Mm-hmm.
I would always rather a game be delayed and have it be good than rushed out and be bad, because a bad game's forever. At best, you get a No Man's Sky situation. But it's
That's fair. We don't
David.
we don't want Colonial Marines, the System Shock edition.
No, I agree.
I get what you're saying, but still, that's just kind of ridiculous. I mean, it's pure feature creep. They just decided to do a bunch of stuff. They took it off of Unity. They started building it on Unreal, and they're like, let's do this, let's do that, and they started reimagining things and making twists and turns, and then looked at it and realized this isn't System Shock at all.
Yeah,
what the hell are we
creep is
doing?
a problem, especially when you. So I love and hate.
They seem to have pitched it with such a clear vision, which is why people backed them in the first place. Mm-hmm. That it's just kind of frustrating that they would just like lose it. I feel like they should just have like a big whiteboard that just says remake System Shock and then underline it 3 times, and then that's just what everybody looks at when they have a question on something.
I don't think you're necessarily too off there. One thing I really appreciate about Kickstarter is that it has shown us that sometimes publishers, for all the shit we give them, are needed because they keep the developers on track. Hey, Fuse911, how you doing? Thanks for joining the chat there. But do you get what I'm saying, David? It's like, Tim Schafer's always the go-to boy I use for this with his Kickstarters, because his shit just goes beyond feature creep, and he always ends up needing more money. Look no further than the Broken Age thing. But when he was working with publishers, they at least kept him on task.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where you don't want too much publisher control, but you need a little bit of it. You need someone cracking the whip on you. And Kickstarter has let people get away without having the whip cracked on them. And if they don't hold their own feet to the fire, which is a very hard thing for anyone to do, you get shit like this. Now, at least the game is going to be coming out, but man, what a disappointment.
Well, because at this point, it seems like they're just starting over.
Looks like Fuse agrees with us in chat. Awesome, cool. As always, if
But
you're watching, feel free to add your thoughts and feelings down in the chat below.
it's definitely not down. It's definitely that way, but it's close enough.
it is when I'm looking at it, the way I have it set up.
All right. That's fair.
All right. If you thought I was mad before, David.
Oh, okay.
Let's lead this next door.
How are you going to be mad about this? This seems like it's super your jam.
It is, but it's not going to be what people think it is.
All right. In a recent story from Gematsu, a job listing suggests that Ace Combat 4, 5, and Z.O.E remasters are in development. There was a recent job posting that said they were seeking someone with consumer game project management experience for director assistance and planner support at a software quality assurance company on Japanese jobs website Mid Tenshoku, which suggested remastered re-releases of Ace Combat 4 Shattered Skies, Ace Combat 5 The Unsung War, and Ace Combat 0 The Belkan War. Which I know for a fact you love those games.
Those three games are known as the Holy Trilogy.
You are an Ace Combat nut.
Yeah, those three games are known as the Holy Trilogy amongst Ace Combat fans, and with damn good reason. And I would love a remaster of those three games. My God, it's something that I'm salivating over, because I would buy that day one. I would pre-order that, and I know our slogan's no pre-orders. But this article is wrong. This article is using a lot of supposition to make a claim that I think is absolutely false. Fuse 91, by the way, I'm glad you're enjoying the discussion. I appreciate it. Appreciate just having you here. So here's the snippet from the listing from the Gematsu. They put this in here from that other Japanese jobs website. Requirements. We'll get to the important stuff in there. Preferred. Someone with a deep knowledge of PlayStation 2 titles, Ace Combat 4, Ace Combat 5, and Ace Combat 0. For example, they need someone who can have a discussion such as the content of mission, let's say 5, in Ace Combat was like this, and you could finish it this way. This is not indicative of someone making a remaster, because all that information is already there if you're making a remaster.
Yeah, this is someone just looking for a person who maybe has experience working on some really good fighter pilot games.
And having the background information is important because Ace Combat 7 is the first time they're returning back to that strange real universe. That's the same world that 4, 5, and 0 were set in. They kind of abandoned it for Assault Horizon and Infinity and Ace Combat 6. They're going back to that same universe now. This isn't for remasters, guys. This is just they need someone that can shore up the story to make sure continuity is in check. And people hear this and they're freaking out. Think it's borderline the Half-Life 3 confirmed thing whenever Gabe Newell says anything. People are hearing what they want to hear as opposed to what is really going to happen. I assure you, I am a huge Ace Combat fan. No one would love this more than me. But for other fans of this franchise out there, understand this is not in any way suggesting there is a remaster of the Holy Trilogy coming. They're just looking for someone who has knowledge of the history of those games, so that way they don't contradict themselves in 7. In my opinion, to be fair, it could be a remaster, but I don't think it is. And I'm just telling everyone that what is hype might never die. Keep things tamped down and understand that hype is a bitch and it will fuck you over, and you start blinding yourself to reality. And we all start thinking, oh my God, now it's also going to be more than it actually is. Let's get the Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere with the actual additional content thrown in there, added on as a pre-order bonus for DLC. You start thinking about things and you start wishing rather than logically understanding what reality is here.
So what you're telling me is that we have confirmed reports of remasters for these 3 games, right?
I fucking hate you. I fucking hate you.
Oh, you'll be fine.
What pissed me off?
You're still getting a new Ace Combat game, all right?
Yes, and I'm super excited by that. Admittedly, it should have been out by now, but it got delayed. Okay, cool. I'm fine with that. Back to the discussion of a good game delayed is better than a bad game now.
Yeah. But I get it. You know, the internet and games journalism has been known to just take any amount of information and just jump to a whole bunch of conclusions.
Yeah.
But that's true for every media. So,
and that's why this is the day of things that I really want to be good, and it's just pissing me off because I read that headline and I'm like, that's it. I'm all on board. This is going to be great. This is it. And I read the fucking story, and I am legitimately pissed off at the author because what he saw suggests none of what the headline is.
Yeah.
At all. You're making shit up. David?
Yes.
One more.
I know you're really upset, but I'm just delighted.
One more thing. Just to suck the gem out of my donut.
Oh, man. Okay, well, you're a little bummed about that other thing. I'm a little bummed out this, but I'm also in a weird fence. So, we're aware of the fact that there's a remaster for Zone of the Enders 2 coming out.
Yep.
Unfortunately, in an article from GameSpot, it has been delayed. There's a new release window. It got pushed back to September. Originally, it was supposed to be a spring release, and that's a bit of a bummer. But they've also shown some new footage of what the heck are they calling it? Is there some weird subtitle for it for the Second Runner Remaster Edition?
The Second Runner Mars.
Mars, thank you. And it looks real good in that new trailer.
Yeah.
Because they have gameplay comparisons between the old one, the HD remaster for PS3, and this newer one, and it is super clean. I'm excited because Zone of the Enders, well, 1 and 2 were some of my favorite PS2 games. I still hold to the theory that the Second Runner was one of, if not the best looking PS2 game when it came out. Like, it's just phenomenal. Blew other games out of the water. And so I'm stoked to get back in that universe and play this game again. And
no, I agree.
And it gets pushed back. And that sucks a little, but I'm also torn because I know about the fact that this is just being made by Konami, and Konami is really looking to have some fans come back because, you know, they screwed over Hideo Kojima, and there's all this stuff with Metal Gear, and it's all their fault, and they're jerks, and we don't love them anymore. But I do love Zone of the Enders, so it's really hard for me to not just want this game. And it's going to be a tough moment for me when that actually comes out, and I have to decide if I'm willing to give Konami money for something that I loved when I was younger.
I am to a degree. This I'll buy. I want to address Fuse in chat real quick. He's saying that he gets what we're talking about, but this stuff is over his head. Man, to be honest with you, neither one of us really know what we're talking about. We're just two talking heads who are just giving our feelings on articles as opposed to hard information and facts, which is why I opened this up to chat to join as well. So don't feel bad about not knowing what's going on. You should have seen the beginning of the show when I was quoting off stock figures earlier. So
yeah, he's real boring.
Yeah, just enjoy yourself and ask questions. So don't worry about understanding. And if you say something that I might be able to correct you on, I'll mention it. But no one's going to be bitchy about it here, so you're cool.
But yeah, I actually totally agree with him that I don't like buying games before they've been properly reviewed. Things that have review embargoes and all that, I won't touch. We always say don't pre-order unless you're like absolutely 100% sure that you already know you want it. Because half the time it comes out and it's just not what it is.
Yeah,
not what you wanted.
It's not going to kill you to hold on for a day or two to actually.
So many people got No Man's Sky, and all you have to do is just wait 2 days for the reviews to come out.
David.
Yes.
Fucking everything has been delayed.
Everything has been delayed. It's been a weird week. It's been
Zone
a weird
of
few
Enders
weeks.
has pushed back to this year. System Shock's 20 now. This Ace Combat Remastered got my hopes up and then shot away once I read the articles. That's not just delayed. That's just not even in development anymore. Call of Duty 2 Remaster, Modern Warfare 2 Remaster, we kind of knew was coming, and now multiplayer's in it, so that's not delayed. That's also
multiplayer's not in it.
Sucked the gem out of my donut. Everything has sucked. So, all of that, though, is way down the line, or not even going to happen in the case of Ace Combat Remastered.
Yeah, that's definitely fake.
But if I want to play something right now, David, what can I play? What's coming out this week?
Like right now?
Right now.
None of the stuff I'm about to talk about, because all this stuff comes out like tonight or tomorrow. His games release on Tuesday. Hey, but if you are looking for new games, there's a few things coming out this week. we're what, end of March, so there's a few more things coming out this month. We got some cool stuff coming out next month, so it's kind of a nice time. This whole spring release window. But first up, we have the Alliance Alive, which is coming out for 3DS because that system still gets games somehow.
What the hell's the Alliance Alive?
It is a game that is released by Atlas.
Okay.
And came out in Japan quite a while ago. I think like early 2017.
The 3DS tends to get a lot of those weird JRPG ports. Is that what we're looking at here?
Exactly. It's a role-playing game where you take control of a group, eventually numbering 9 characters, navigating an unnamed fantasy world in a quest to free it from the control of otherworldly beings called daemons.
Like as in Warhammer 40K spelling daemon.
Yes, DAE, that classic demon spelling. Literally, the plot description to this game sounds like any older Final Fantasy. Players explore a world map, first on foot and later using vehicles, which can unlock previously inaccessible parts of the map.
Yeah, that's a traditional.
During the course of the story, the party unites human staff guilds scattered across the land. You meet people give you buffs, you get new party members. You gain experience to unlock new abilities. Like, it's just the most generic RPG description of all time. But if you are looking for a JRPG and you still have a 3DS that you play, then there you go.
It looks like this game's claim to fame is that it was written by Yoshitaka Mirayama, who is the scenario writer for Suikoden, I believe.
Oh, dude. Is this...
Yeah, he's the guy that created Suikoden.
Okay, well, that's actually a pretty big sell because those games are awesome.
Yeah, they should have led with that.
Especially 2 and 3. You just start with that in your article next time. Also coming out this week, the next episode of Batman: The Enemy Within. This is the Telltale Batman game. This is episode 5, Same Stitch. This is coming out on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. This is following your story. If you haven't played these games at all, it's a interesting twist on the Batman lore. At this point in time, I think Bruce Wayne is very deep behind enemy lines, like working with the guy who is to become the Joker as a pseudo bad guy, and you can like kind of team up with him. And
Telltale's done something very unusual with their Batman games here. Don't go into these thinking you're going to get a traditional Batman game, because they've essentially had carte blanche to completely...
Yeah, they've dramatically changed the history of the character. And it's a little ridiculous. There's all kinds of stuff going on. In mostly the fact that everybody in the game is kind of incapable of keeping their hands clean, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Everyone's a little bit dirty in the game. Like, no one's as good as they normally would be. And there's a lot of choices to make.
If you're looking for a pretty refreshing take on the Batman universe, I'd recommend take a look at Telltale games. Also, while talking about Telltale, did you get a chance to read that article that came out that is just a scathing
talking about the state of the company and the way they ballooned up too much and how they get completely mismanaged from when they were a small company? Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's
that was a rough read for those guys, but they did also recently fire 90 people, so I mean,
yes, but they fired 90 people because of poor mismanagement is what that article gets into. So, But yeah, I mean, good point. Keep your mind open, because these could just be people pissed off and have bone pick with the company. But goddamn, it is scathing. Well, I appreciate you being here, Fuse, by the way. So thanks for joining us. Hang out, chat, talk, all that good stuff. It's always good to have someone watching. What else we got coming out this week, David?
Also coming out is... Well, okay, this game isn't actually coming out because it's already in early access on Steam, but Shroud of the Avatar Forsaken Virtues is actually being released. I think it's been on Steam since like 2016, 2015. It's been on there for a while. It's a multiplayer fantasy RPG that sets the player on a path filled with peril and tough choices that explore a persistent realm that can be shared with other avatars. The big selling point of this game is that it's a spiritual successor to Richard Garriott's Ultima games. So not necessarily set in the Ultima universe, but using a lot of the ideas and themes of the Ultima games in a multiplayer RPG.
Does Richard Garriott... Oh, it's a multiplayer. Does Richard Garriott have any hand in this?
I don't know that Richard Garriott himself is actually working on it, but I believe some of the original team is.
have to do a quick look up on that because it's hard to stress how influential the Ultima games were for RPGs in general.
Yeah, they were a big deal back in the day.
Not
I mean,
seen...
I didn't play them because I was too young.
There's a lot of text here. I don't feel like reading it.
Yeah, we don't like to read here on this show, so we're going to talk about instead something that you probably don't have to read a whole lot in, Far Cry 5, which also comes out this week. PC, PS4, Xbox One, and you've been playing it, haven't you?
I have. I've streamed a bunch of it over the weekend. I am doing the review for it for GameCritics.com. The embargo is up, so I can actually talk about what's in the game so far, and it is, if I have to use the 1 to 10 scale, and I hate using the numbered scale.
Whoa, whoa. No, you don't do that. You either give it a don't buy, hard buy, wait for a sale. That's how we do this. Damn.
Right now is a great time for it because there's no other open world games out there right now. If you're a fan of the Far Cry games, you're going to love this one because they streamlined a lot of the bullshit in it. To answer your question, Fuse, I've been playing Far Cry 5 and have been for about a week. You can see some old VODs where Ubisoft let me stream stuff if you want to go take there. I think I have about like 5 hours of the game just sitting in there. But yeah, I recommend picking it up. It has cut out a lot of the mundane parts of Far Cry 3 and 4. The world doesn't feel as empty. It does feel a little bit disjointed because there are 3 separate regions. And there's like a sub-boss, there's like a lieutenant in each one of these regions you have to kill to get to the final boss of the game. And they're pretty self-contained. So, for example, character interactions in one region. Let's say there's 2 characters in one region. One's Nick and Jess. I can't remember her name, but let's say it's Jess. And then in another region, you have different people, and these characters really won't talk about each other. So it's like 3 disconnected stories leading into a bigger thing, and that bothers me a little bit. And it has its weird little foibles. For example, if you're talking to an NPC and an enemy comes by, they'll stop and start shooting at the enemy. The problem is, this happens a lot. So you're trying to get your next quest, and they're breaking down the quest to you, and then an enemy comes by, and everything stops, and they have to fight the enemy, and then they have to drop out of combat to get the quest again. So there are weird little foibles like that throughout the game.
That reminds me of random villagers, like, going to fight dragons in Skyrim for no reason, instead of just running and hiding in their houses.
Yeah, similar idea. So
something happened. It's time for aggro.
There are weird little things like that. And, of course, it's an open world game, so you have your fair share of glitches and bugs everywhere. But nothing in that is taking away from how much fun I'm having from that game right now.
Is the dialogue as entertaining as Blood Dragon?
No, because Blood Dragon, it was kind of on a whole new level. I will say that the villains are extremely interesting, but that's what Far Cry is, in my opinion, does best, are its villains.
Oh yeah, they're super good at villains.
Yeah.
I definitely get that. What fun thing that came up in my research is that, are you aware of the fact that this is the 11th Far Cry game? It's the 5th main title, but it's the 11th Far Cry game.
Let's see if I can think of them. There's the first Far Cry, which was done by Crytek. And then there was Far Cry Origins and Predator, which is essentially 2 retellings of the original Far Cry that came out to consoles. Then there was Far Cry 2. I want to say there was a special edition of Far Cry 2 that was done later. Then there was Far Cry 3, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, Far Cry 4, Far Cry Primal, Far Cry 5, and I'm missing one. What am I missing?
Probably Paradise Lost.
I am missing Paradise Lost. What was that for?
That was the VR rail shooter.
Okay, yeah, I definitely
still technically a Far Cry game.
Technically a Far Cry game.
Yep. Yeah, I just thought that was hilarious because that came up when I was looking all this up. There's 11 flipping Far Cry games out of nowhere.
Yeah, Far Cry Primal is the prehistoric one there, Fuse. Starring Adam Jensen, Elias Toifo, some French Canadian name I can never pronounce. Good guy though. Also, The Expanse, which is an amazing show.
Is that what you mean by Adam Jensen?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the main guy to the new Deus Ex games.
Those are some good games.
They're amazing. I recommend you play them both. You have to even go all the way back and play the original ones too.
Well, I can get to that when I finish playing all these new games.
No, I didn't care too much for biographies.
I think Blood Dragon is still my favorite of the Far Cry spinoffs over any of the others. But that's because I'm like a huge 80s nerd. So
well, it stars Michael Biehn fighting
I
blood
know.
dragons.
It's just so great. I mean, dinosaurs with flipping lasers on their head. I can't give that up. And the soundtrack is great.
Yes, I agree.
Also coming out this week, Outlast 2 is releasing on Switch. Really strange place for it, but there you go. You can now get your spooky Outlast camera sneaking time on the go.
Nowhere near as good as the first one. Outlast 2 was such a disappointment.
Well, if you have no idea what Outlast is, it is the survival horror game where you play as a video journalist named Blake, and basically you don't get to fight.
Yeah, there's
you
no
run
combat
away
in the
from
game.
everything.
You gotta run from everything.
And you have a camcorder that has night vision. So sometimes you're in really, really dark areas, and you basically need to use the camcorder to see, but you have a limited amount of tape. And if a scary thing spots you, you need to run and you need to hide until it moves on, because it's just going to kill you. There's no way for you to fight back. It's part of like that resurgence of old school survival horror that I feel like kind of started with Amnesia. I mean, I may be wrong on that, but I feel like that was right at the crescendo when we started getting all these like kind of classic styled survival horrors again. Outlast, the first one, I think did it very, very well. And well, this guy's saying Outlast 2 wasn't quite as good. I didn't even play it, so
I'm trying to remember what came out first: Amnesia or Silent Hill: Shattered Memories, both of which featured you just run for your life. And that really wasn't a thing before then. Before then, you had horror games, but once you start talking about survival horror in its infancy, you think Resident Evil, or if you really want to go way back, Alone in the Dark, and both of those featured guns.
They did, but there was also like ammo management, so it was more about survival. I mean, late game in either one, I mean, you kind of can just fight stuff, and it's not as big of a deal.
The Amnesia, Shattered Memories, Outlast style of game, though, or Alien Isolation even, to a degree, where you just have to run from things because there's no way you can fight it off, that's relatively recent.
Although one thing I think is interesting about Outlast 2 is the fact that your character wears glasses, and your glasses can actually fall off, which screw with your vision.
Yeah,
which is a fantastic addition and makes a scary game way scarier.
Yes, it's all right. It just was no. I like the first one way better. I just could care less about the story to the second.
Yeah, but now you can play it on Switch, so stop selling that game short. Also coming out this week, if you're a baseball fan, MLB The Show 18 comes out for PS4. This is the, I think, yearly installment of MLB games that are for PlayStation. This is from, is this Sony Santa Monica? Is that who puts these games out?
Try to look it up right now.
But yeah, they come out all the time. They've always been really polished baseball games. I'm not really a sports video game kind of guy, but I know a lot of people that are super into this stuff. So if you can't wait for the next baseball game, there you go. Show 18. The new features, from what I understand, is you can actually change your batting stance. Like you can actually customize the way your guy stands when he hits the ball, which is kind of hilarious to me, but I guess cool for people that get really into these things because you make your character kind of stand like you do. And then there's some new features in the franchise mode and all kinds of other fun cleanups and obviously new player stats and all that.
It is San Diego, by the way. That does
San Diego.
And I think that you kind of have to like MLB The Show if you like baseball on consoles, because I believe that's exclusive. I think they have the exclusive rights to MLB. There's no other sports game that I can think of.
Yeah.
Which is why you don't get a baseball game on Xbox.
Well, and I know these games actually sell like crazy, probably because it's the only baseball game. Also coming out this week, we have Injustice 2 Legendary Edition for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. This is the basically like greatest hits version of Injustice 2, the fighting game featuring DC characters beating the crap out of each other with a whole bunch of guest.
Go ahead. Sorry.
With a whole bunch of guest characters. You got Hellboy, you got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you got all kinds of stuff featured in Injustice. It's based on kind of the same engine of like Mortal Kombat 9 and 10, but with superheroes. So
if you haven't played it, I highly recommend picking it up if you like fighting games. It's a damn good fighting game and possibly the best story I have ever seen in a fighting game.
Actually, that's the funny thing about NetherRealm is since Mortal Kombat 9, they've been really working on putting storylines in their fighters, and they're doing a pretty dang good job of it.
Mortal Kombat 10 story is really damn too. I know it's weird to say a fighting game has a story. but Mortal Kombat 10 and Injustice 2, and Injustice 1 by extension, amazing stories to them. And they're fighting
Injustice also
games.
spawned one of the greatest DC comics of all time, because the Injustice series in actual like comic book form, they go into like the backstory of the game and go after the game and lead up to this game, are phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're great. But things go real bad in Injustice. Superman punches Joker through the chest and rips his heart out.
Yeah, it's
the games get dark.
The idea behind Injustice is it's an alternate universe where Superman just goes horribly evil and takes over the world. I know that's been done in comics before, but Injustice does it in a really good way. So I recommend taking a look at the comic and the 2 games that are out for it right now. And yeah, it's a fighting game, Fuse. It is, and I don't even like fighting games, but Injustice is really fun.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the big thing is it's actually fun, and I think it's pretty accessible to people that don't play fighting games. But if you have absolutely no interest in fighters at all, I don't think it's going to sway you. And if you have no interest in DC comics or like superheroes, then you'll probably won't get too much. But the idea of like using Wonder Woman to beat up a Ninja Turtle is really entertaining to me. So
yeah, if you're not into fighting games, I'd Redbox it or even look up the 2.5 hours of cutscenes on YouTube, because the story is amazing. If you like DC comics.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Though, if you are looking for a fighting game, I would just point you back a month ago and say pick up Dragon Ball FighterZ. But
once again, we're in this weird alternate universe where a Dragon Ball game is good.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that new one is so remarkably accessible that you have people that don't even play fighting games playing it. You have people that came from like the Xenoverse games playing it. The most complicated input is a Hadoken, like quarter circle forward and a punch or an attack move.
As
like
opposed to some of those asinine ones, which is like
where
back
it's like
to forward,
double half
up, down,
circle,
double eight.
Yeah. There's all kinds of crazy commands in some fighting games, so it's really accessible. It's got auto combos on basically every button, so you can kind of just slap your way through it, and it's outrageously stylish and amazing looking. So if you're like a fan of Dragon Ball, you can like kind of live your dream of playing as young Gohan and blowing up Cell with your ultimate attack. It's pretty great. But, you know, we're talking about this week, and that's Injustice. Also coming out, the last thing I have to talk about is the Atelier Lydie and Sewell, The Alchemist and the Mysterious Paintings. Whew, that's a lot to get through. This is on PC, PS4, and Switch. This is another Atelier game. This is kind of like a RPG series that aren't necessarily related, but kind of are mechanically. It follows the story of alchemist twins who work alongside their father, and they kind of dabble in alchemy, do all kinds of non-stuff. They end up getting drawn into this world with rare materials, and they have an adventure, and it's an RPG. If you haven't played any of the Altair games, it's fairly traditional JRPG-like.
And the series has been around forever.
Yeah, there's been a whole bunch of these games.
So, and he does mean a whole bunch. Since 1997, if you count spin-offs and remakes, there have been 63 of these goddamn games.
Yes. It's a really popular series.
97 was 20 years ago. That's an average of 3 of these games a year.
Yeah, well, and they're also released on all kinds of things. Like this one is out on basically everything. It came out on Vita in Japan last year. I think they're even putting it on Switch.
Yeah, it's coming out on Switch, or is out on Switch. One of the two.
Yeah, you get quests from RPGs. You unlock secrets. It's turn-based combat. Like I said, it's very traditional. It's got puzzles, all that other fun stuff. If you're really looking for a JRPG, there you go. If you have no interest in them, this isn't going to sway you. Stay away. It's very cutesy. It's got bubbly music. It's got girls that look way too young and skirts that look way too small. It's got people that shoot guns for no reason at fantasy monsters. It's about as weird as it can get.
It's definitely a niche video game series. The people who love it, and they haven't screwed with the formula much, which is why they love it, I think. But goddamn, they release like 3 or 4 of these a year.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous. I don't know. At this point, I'm just not into JRPGs as much as I used to be. Like back in the day, I'd play them all the time because I could just sit and zone out, and I had enough free time to get through them.
I don't get the time to grind.
Yeah, there's just too many games to play for me, and sitting on one game that has a possibly fun, but in my opinion, limited combat system for 60 to 160 hours. Just it's too much.
Yeah, same. I agree.
I mean, I haven't even played Final Fantasy 15 though, so I'm like way out of the loop.
All right, I think that wraps things up here at GamePoints. And do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up? We haven't done this in 2 weeks, and I've lost like the rigmarole to end the show.
Yeah. It's been a minute since I've been here, and that's okay. We'll get back into it. We'll ease in slowly. We'll have an awkward ending here. You know, this has been Game Points. Thanks for joining us. Check us out on YouTube. You can see our old episodes online. Just type in Game Points, one word, and we'll pop right up. We air every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on Twitch TV/GamePoints. We also have a fancy subscribe button now, which is
that's
really
right.
exciting. We just got that today.
An hour ago, we got our subscribe and cheer button. So
wow,
follow. You don't have to do it by any means. I totally
tell-
understand if you. I wouldn't give this show money.
I'm sorry. Consider how talented we are. We've had 125 episodes of this show. No joke. We used to have 3 people on it. We went to 2. It's this whole big thing. 125 episodes later, we finally get a subscribe button. I mean, I haven't put this much time into something than the 600 hours I put in the first Monster Hunter to get 1 monster carve.
This is Game Points episode 125. Thanks for watching, and until next Monday, we're out of here.